Okay, so now we are going to start the stone art part of the fox. So I'm just going to run through the sort of tools that I've gathered together. So I've got myself a nylon rolling board, I've got a nylon roller, I've got some cake decorating tools, one of which I will definitely use, in fact 2 of them, I will definitely use these 2. So if I put those down on this deck there, you can see those are the 2 that I'm going to use. Sorry, come back this way. Camera does everything in the opposite. Don't know about the others, but I certainly am going to use those 2. And then I've got some texturing tools. One is an embossing folder for like paper crafts, and the other one is actually it's a tree bark piece of plastic that's quite malleable, that was for cake decorating. Once upon a time I ran a cake decorating company. Then I've got some Powertex. This is the terracotta. I've actually mixed the stone art clay up with a combination of terracotta, yellow ochre and a touch of red, but this is good enough for sticking. So we need some of that for sticking. Never pour out more than you're going to need. I'll show you in a minute how much I'm going to need. And then you need a brush. And obviously you need your stone art clay. So we've already covered making the stone art clay. And I'm going to run through how we're going to do it. So you want to break off a piece of stone art clay and keep the rest wrapped. And then you want to condition it. So I don't use gloves when I'm using stone art clay because, well, I just don't get on with gloves with the clay. I need a bit more manipulation. But if you sort of squeeze this between your hands and then you roll it and you keep re-rolling it, it's quite tough at this stage, but the more you condition it, the more malleable it becomes. There we go. So we'll do that with it. And then I'm going to roll it out. And one of the tips and techniques that I use something called non-slip or oven liner. And if you roll out on this, it makes it easy to peel the clay off. So you can just lift this up and just peel the clay straight off it. Whereas on your board, you could get stuck. So you just want to roll it out. And I tend to always roll out sort of a slightly oblong piece. So you see what I mean? You can just keep picking it up and moving it. Sorry, you're going to hear me. I'm an old lady, and you're going to hear me getting out of breath doing this rolling because it is quite tough. It's not like rolling out soft stuff. Okay, so that's about it. That's what I want for the moment, and that's, oh, I don't know, about 1/8, I think. And then I'm going to take some texturing tools, and I'm going to just give it some texture. Okay, so I'm just going to push a bit here, there and everywhere. And then I've got some roller tools here. They've got little lines in them. So you could use something like that. Just roll some texture, just giving it a bit of texture. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tear it. I don't want any straight edges, so I'm going to tear the clay. I'm going to just tear it like that, and I'm probably going to tear a couple of pieces like so. Then I'm going to pour out a bit of Powertex. I've already shaken it. You need to make sure you shake it well. And then I'm going to pour that out into this little tub that I've got here. Not too much at a time. Always wipe the neck and then just wipe it on your bottle or your box. And then pop your lid on and make sure that you can't knock that fly. And I'm just going to pop it on the floor for now. And then I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to start on the underside of the feet. That's my preferred method. And I'm just going to paint the feet with Powertex, like so. And under here I've got a piece of cellophane, and that's going to stop my fox from sticking every time I put it down, because there's going to be bits that I've exposed. I've got exposed Powertex. I haven't necessarily covered it up, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to cover this first. I always find the legs the quickest, sorry, I always find the legs the best thing to do first. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the clay, and I'm going to try and get this on camera for you. And I'm going to slide the clay underneath the back of the leg. Yeah, really kind of wiggle it in, and then flip it up the foot like so. And then wrap one side around like that. Pop it down for a second, and then I'm going to tear this side, which is too much, tear it out the way, and then squish that round and join the two bits together. And you don't want too much overlapping clay, but you do want the clay to overlap each section. So you're just going to squidge that so that you've got no air bubbles, and then push onto there. And then push, and then grab another piece of the stone art clay and join that over the tip of the toe. Let's bring that round to here for you. So join that over the tip of the toe. Again, anywhere where you think it's going to be too much, just tear it away, and then bring that across and give it a squidge. Here goes my technical terms again. Anybody who's already purchased videos from me will know all about my squidge. It's my favourite word. I just think it works for just about everything. So we're pressing that down, making sure that we're covered, that we've not left any exposed pieces. Really just check underneath here. Yeah, nothing exposed. And then grip your hand and just squeeze and make sure there's no air bubbles in there. Okay. And there we go. So that's the first foot done. You're not trying to get it smooth. The whole point is to have a lot of texture. So now I'm going to do the other foot. So I'm going to take some Powertex again and paint that one. Paint underneath and all the way around. Like so. And then do that same technique again. We're going to slide the clay down underneath the leg, really kind of wiggle it down, and then push it onto the leg and then around. And then anywhere where there's going to be too much excess, you're going to just tear it away and close that up. And then grab the next piece of clay and stick that. I'm going to roll it across there and then pinch the sides together. You may not have enough. If you haven't got enough, it's fine. You just add a bit on. As I say, there's no smoothness to this. So we're just going to add a piece here. Just make sure that every single piece you add is meeting the other piece, and that it is, when I say meeting, I mean ever so slightly overlapping. Don't overlap it massively. Okay, so this bit here, I'm going to just add in here, and there's a bit here. So it's quite a bit of patchwork, but that's fine, no problem at all. Pinch, squash, squidge, my favourite word. And then remember, take the whole hand and squish it and make sure that there's no air bubbles. There we go. So there's both his feet covered. Okay. But check your underside, make sure that it's all adhered. Yeah. So grab some more stone art clay. And remember, we've got to condition it each time. So squish it in your hands and then roll it. If you've worked with clay at all, you've probably seen videos on conditioning. Some clays take a lot more than others. This one's not too bad. And in this hot weather, I mean, it's a really mega hot day again today. I was filming a different tutorial last night and it was boiling hot, and it is again today. So I'm doing it first thing in the morning in the hopes that I can get some of this done. Right, so again, we're going to use this non-stick, sorry, non-slip, well, no, both, non-stick. And we're going to roll it out. And that's because we can pick it up and peel it. You need the board underneath you for the straightness, but because if you use plastic tablecloths, they tend to wrinkle up a bit. There we go. So remember, we're rolling this out to about an 1/8. And then make sure it's moving before you use any texturing tool. So I quite like that little roller, so we'll give that a go with the roller. I appreciate that, you know, the more you squidge, the more you're going to lose it, but at least you started with some. Some of it will remain. And then pick it up and tear. This time I'm just going to tear it in half, sort of in half. And then I'm going to start painting up around the haunches here. And take some clay. I'm going to tear this bit in half. Take some clay. Find where you ended and sort of start just over the top of that. And then come round and down. And then this bit I'm going to tuck just underneath. Push, squidge. And then remember, where it overlaps, just tear it away. And then anywhere at the bottom of the bottle, you don't want to cover the bottom of the bottle, so you just take your thumb and you just push the clay away, like that. Just push it away. And then squidge those bits together. Soften it out. Make sure it's adhered, make sure it's covered the previous layer of clay, but don't get rid of your cracks. Leave your cracks, they're fun. They're interesting. Okay, so I'll tear this again and we'll do the other side. So paint the haunch just underneath that foot there. So I'm gonna put that on slightly on angle. Cross like that, coming over this bit that we ended with, along the foot, around the haunch, give it a squidge, and then remember, press it away at the bottom of the bottle, and anywhere it just wants to tuck under, just give it a push. So these texturing tools and the cake decorating tools I was talking about earlier, this is the one I use quite a lot. So I'm just going to push that so that that creates a bit more contour for that haunch. So push that in like so. There we go. So you can see that there's that texturing and there's that little bit I've pushed in, and then the other side will do the same. Has a curve on the end, so you can kind of follow the curve. So then pinch that, and that's that one, that side. Okay, so this last bit of clay here, I'm going to tear this odd bit off and go up the centre. So paint the middle, up you go. And we're going to pop that in the middle there, pinch it, and then if I sort of use this tool and squish it in, I can actually pull that bit of clay away. Just make sure it does join, and if it's only a touch, just push it in. Don't bother trying to get rid of it. So push the clay away at the bottom of the fox, and if you push too much away, it doesn't matter, just add a patch and add another bit, it's not a problem. It's all very forgiving, stone art clay, and the more that you manipulate it, the more quite interesting textures you get from it. Okay, so stick it on, stick it to the body, and we've got a bit here, I'm just going to patch this bit in. Let's play it that way. We'll patch it in there. So patch it in. Make sure you do not have any big holes. I'm just patching another bit in. And then a little bit here. Now just make sure. Right, so we'll reiterate that bit there with that tool. And there. And then that's as far as we've got at the moment. So we've done part of that haunch. And part of that one. Okay, so now we need to get some more. It's just a bit there I'm a bit concerned about, so I'm just going to stick a bit in there. Get some more clay on the go. This little bit that we pulled off the edge, we can just squidge it up and roll it into the next piece. So my plan is to use all of this piece of clay and then take a break and then move on with the next stage. So if you remember, when we started the armature, we created this part of the fox all in one, and then we created the tail and the front feet separately. Okay, so they're all to one side of me. So just get this bit of clay conditioned again. Squidge in your hands, give it a roll. Your hand warmth basically is what's warming it up. Okay, so once you feel that's malleable enough, then you can start to roll it again. Right, so because I'm coming up the body and I'm going to start going round, this time when I do the texturing, I'm going to make sure the texturing goes up the length, but the clay is on its width. You'll see that in a second when I do it. Sorry, sometimes again, I'm an old lady, sometimes my words leave the building. So a bit more. So again, this using this oven liner just makes everything so much easier. There's no sticking. So a little bit more. Let's see what we've got. It's a little bit thick still yet. Right, okay, so this time I'm turning the clay and I'm going to roll this way because I'm going round the body now. Okay, so let's tear some sections. So we just grab the fox, and we'll stick here. I'll go around this bottom piece. There we go. Right, so I finished over here. So I'm going to get that piece to come across there and up. Just squish it in. Like so. Now with that really flexible tool, you can actually get it and sort of curve it and roll it into the fur like so to get a bit more texture in. I said to you it's actually a bark, but because you're not doing it in its entirety, that you're only doing bits of it, you can see the texture still, rather than like the fact that it should be a tree. Okay, so that's that section done. So now I'm going to tear another piece and then we'll stick that here at the bottom. Make sure you do come right down to your bottom bit. So pinch, push, squidge. Remember, don't overlap too much of the clay because it will be very thick. It's not necessary, and basically it would take forever to dry. I mean, it takes a very long time to dry anyway. I mean, stone art clay, you can't put it outside for about 6 months. Trouble is, with these kind of creatures, I don't really ever feel like putting them outside. I want them indoors. Right, so there's a little patch here. I'm just going to grab a little patch. Excuse me, losing my voice. And pop that on there. Wouldn't you just know it, that wasn't quite enough. So stick that there. So all this patching is just adding to the interest. So pinch away the clay at the base. We don't need any of that excess. You won't sit very flat if we leave that. And then we can take that tool again and just roll it. Just to give it more interest. And then here, where this haunch is, we can do the same as we did at the front. We can kind of take that tool and reiterate that. So if I show you that, you can see that. Yeah. Okay, and we can do the same with this side. There it is again. Right, so we're going to come up the front here. So we want to add a bit more Powertex. You need the Powertex to get the clay to stick. Alright, so I've got an odd bit here that I'm going to fix first to save me messing about too much. So we'll fix that bit and this bit, and then we can go straight round. Okay, so that goes up like so. Give it a squidge. Make sure it has overlap, but remember to make these overlaps really broken, no straight lines. Okay, and then we can take that texture tool. Now remember, with the throat of the fox, it's going to be covered with all the ivory ruffles, so you haven't got to worry too much about the texturing there. Okay, so one more section. I've managed to spill some Powertex on my plastic bags. I'm just going to pick it up with the stone art clay and knead it in. If your stone art clay is getting a bit dry, that's exactly what you can do. You can add a little bit of Powertex into it and give it a knead. And if it's a bit on the sticky side, then obviously you can do a bit of stone art, rub a bit of stone art into it, but do rub it in well, because otherwise you'll have white bits and you don't really want the white bits showing. Okay, so condition that clay again. Right, so here we go, roller. So again, I'm going to roll a sort of long tongue of clay. I'm just going to even up the edges a bit. Make sure you've lifted it, and then we're going to turn it and run that texturing tool. I've got some others here actually. I've got some longer ones. Let's see what they do. Yeah, not so good. Go back to this one. This nylon one is pretty good. Right, okay, so I'm going to carry on round this back piece. So I've got to pick up some power tacks and give her a paint. And because of the ruff down the front of the fox here, I'm actually only going to paint up the side of the neck here. I'm not going to bother any more. I've gone about as high as I need to. If we offer up the front feet, you can see that that's roughly where the front feet are going to go. So I'm not going to do any more terracotta power text up this front centerpiece here, but I do need to come enough round the sides so that we don't have anything exposed when we do the ivory ruff. So I'm going to have a look at where we're going. So I'm starting here, I'm tearing a piece, and I'm going to use that torn piece, and I'm going to come down the side of this neck here. So that's the bit I've just been talking about. Come round there, give it a squidge, and then tear the next piece. And one of the techniques that I often employ a bit further around the body is to take this texturing tool and sort of pinch or drag out the bottom. Just sort of drag it out like that. And what that gives you is a scruffy edge. You can see that very scruffy edge. There we go, really scruffy. That's it. And then I'm going to adhere that. And that gives it a bit more interest again. So take another piece and take that tool. And you're just literally pressing and dragging and creating a bit more interest at the bottom. If I hold it, here we go, sorry, again, camera, opposite. No, can't see it there. There, that's that dragged edge, look. No, in again. There. So keep going round. Of course your cellophane will just keep moving with you, so that's fine. So overlap that bit and then give it a squidge. So we've now got, I'm just going to pick him up, we've now got quite a lot of texture going on. You can see that now. See, quite a lot of texture. Not a lot of point down the front because obviously we're going to cover a lot of it up with the ruff. So again, tear another piece, drag the bottom. So just take the tool, put some pressure on it and drag away. Like that. I need to be out of shot and that needs to be in front of the cream. There we go, look. You can see that dragged edge. Okay, so that's going to go on here. Just tear it away if it's too much, so we don't need all this much. These two overlap, but not by a lot. So still a little bit more that can come out of there. And then we're just going to squidge that. A little bit here. So drag that bottom edge. And then pop that on there. remember, we're not bothering with this bit, we're just coming up the side here. So we'll grab another bit. And how long do we want it? We want it, I'm kind of going to go to about there. I'm not going to do his head in this section of the video because it's a little bit more complicated. And right, if your Powertex is getting a bit dry, you'll want to just put a little bit more on. So overlap that bit again. There we go. And you basically just keep working round. So drag that edge. It is worth putting these little extra bits and pieces in just to give you that added interest. So I want a little bit of Powertex up the back there. And then slightly overlap. There we go. And a bit more. So you can appreciate that you don't want the clay to be too thick for doing this dragging. So I said originally it's about 1/8. You can probably see that I invariably rest them on my tummy. I have a fair amount of tummy to rest them on, but that's just the way I do it. So up that goes, up the back of the neck again. I just squish each section into each other, but don't squish those bottom bits. Okay, when you're picking them up, you'll see that your hand has created wrinkles. So I'm quite happy that that's come up to this section I want here. I am actually just going to go round the neck there because sometimes I don't get the ruff exactly right, and I don't want any bits that are exposed. So I'm just going to run that round there, that. That's it. And then with this little bit of clay we've got left, remember we've got some left, so we might as well. I'm going to use this bit and I'm going to go under his chin. So I'm just going to start under here. I'm going to paint. I'm just going to come up over his nose a bit, like so. And then I'm going to take the clay and I'm going to start at the bottom. So we'll texture that bottom. And we'll start at the bottom and we'll come up and over the nose and just squish it round like so. Now just make sure it's definitely attached and that you've got no air bubbles. So I often do the same on the nose as I do on the legs. I give it a squidge and make sure. All right, so there's a few bits here. I'm going to use these bits up. So we'll pick those up and knead those together. And we'll come just one side of the cheek. I don't know which one, but any one of them really. So remember, roll out on this bit of oven liner. If you're in the UK, I buy it from a company called Home Bargains. It's cheap as chips. It's about £1.99, I think. So we'll just stick some texture on. Actually, where's my tool? We'll just stick some texture on it. And then we'll drag out the bottom. Remember, put your finger on the tip of this tool when you're dragging, otherwise you could break the head off. I have to buy these tools quite regularly because that's exactly what I do. So trust me, when I tell you things, it's usually because I found out the hard way. So we'll add that bit And then I think I'm on this side, so I'll take this side. I'm going to take the eye out for a minute because he's going to be in my way. So we'll get some Powertex in there and we'll start that. So again, pick him up. All the time you can pick him up by the neck. It's reasonably easy to work with. So we're going to go across there, overlapping, and then up, and then push. Really, really push it into that eye socket, because the last thing we want to do is lose. Oh, here we go, there's another one of these cake decorating tools. I'm just going to use that ball tool and really push it in there and squidge that round there, and then that tiny little bit, a few bits of, oh gosh, I'm so mean, look, just these tiny few bits. I'm picking them up and just squishing them on. There we go. Right, so I've run out of this batch of clay. I have more, but I've run out of the first batch, so we're going to stop it there. So I'm going to lay that down for you so you can see a bit better. So you can see all the textures and the fact that it is quite scruffy and cracked, and that's great. All that is great. And if you've got bits that you're not all that thrilled with, you can go back and you can add a bit more texture. Just, you know, wherever you like, really. A little bit of texture. Don't beat up your scruffy ends, but make sure they are sealed. There we go. So that's where we are so far. Bring him up a bit closer to the camera, and then I'll try and turn him reasonably slowly. You can see all that texture, all those lovely scruffy bits that we've drawn, and then coming down to here, and the bits that we've done on the face. So we came up under the chin and then round. Okay, so I shall be back to you in a moment. Thank you.